After spending roughly a week with the Galaxy A8, I wanted to present to you my initial impressions of the device. Please be aware that while the phone has been announced for both China and India, this piece, including the specs themselves as well as the $615 price. The Galaxy A8 looks like it should be a top-tier phone, given the aluminum unibody design and large display which borders on bezel-lessness. Assuming the tacky packaging isn't a giveaway, however, the specs themselves serve as a minor reminder of the parts inside, in an effort perhaps, to temper the expectations one might have. The Galaxy A8 features a 5.7-inch Full HD Super AMOLED display, a 64-bit octa-core Snapdragon 615 processor backed by 2 GB of RAM, 32 GB of onboard storage and microSD expansion up to 128 GB. It also has a 16MP rear-facing camera, 5MP front-facing shooter, and a 3050 mAh battery. It runs the most recent version of Samsung's TouchWiz overlay atop Android 5.1.1 Lollipop, and also comes with the same fingerprint sensor as seen in the S6. The device measures just 5.9 mm thin and weighs only 151 grams, making this the thinnest smartphone Samsung has released to date. It also retails, in Korea at least, for 714,000 won, about $610, though current pricing on sites like eBay has it going for around $800 plus. Hardware. On paper, the phone seems like a fairly solid mid-ranger, even if still considerably less impressive than a flagship-level product. Unfortunately, after using the phone for even just a few minutes, its limitations become quite obvious. Between the Snapdragon 615, the 2 GB of RAM, and TouchWiz, the phone is constantly lagging and stuttering. At times it takes seemingly ages for SwiftKey to load up or to open an application, and, coming from the Galaxy S6, this is egregiously problematic. Even something as simplistic as opening the settings menu has lag with the background loading up a pure white screen, followed by the actual listing. After many of these apps are running in the background, reloading them doesn't take quite as long, but suffice to say from the software side of things, the A8 is probably not going to make any top 10 lists this year. Running a benchmark test on Antutu, the device scored 45,233, placing it on par with some 2014 flagships. Curiously, the app reported the SoC as a 32-bit variant, and didn't prompt for sideloading of the 64-bit version. Battery life is relatively good, with the A8 easily lasting throughout the day with moderate use including liberal web surfing, texting on several applications including Line and Slack, and a few phone calls. Tethering seemed to drain it quickly, however, and I have opted to wait for the full review before evaluating it with respect to games and heavy-handed tasks. All in all, the battery performed better than that of the S6, and at no point during the day did I actively worry the phone would power down before getting home. In an almost comical way, the A8 doesn't seem to be made for South Korea. Despite featuring the same dual SIM setup that is found in the Chinese model, the second slot is strictly relegated to microSD, even though you can technically put a nano SIM inside it. The primary tray is even labeled as SIM1, clearly indicating Samsung didn't bother to create an original part for this model. An acceptable display. The display, while a Full HD AMOLED panel, fails to have the same ultra-sharp, vibrant in-your-face colors and crispness that the Galaxy S6 has. The phone does support multiple screen modes, thus allowing for those who hate oversaturated colors to dial back the concentration. It also has the fantastic auto brightness outdoor automatic setting Samsung has championed as of late, where using the device in extremely bright conditions results in a high contrast color enhancement, making it easy to see. This feature is definitely worth having and makes switching back to a standard phone all the more difficult afterwards. Serviceable sounds. The sound quality of the Galaxy A8 is not much different than that of the previous A models, including the grating high-pitched clicking sounds that accompany input. They can be turned off however. This is largely due to the fact that once again, the product's sole, tiny speaker is located on the rear of the device, next to the protruding camera module. We question Samsung's design given that the bottom side of the phone clearly could have supported the inclusion of a downwards firing speaker a la the Galaxy S6. Just take a look. The speaker placement smacks of cost cutting to say the least, something that is further emphasized by the software. Troubled TouchWiz. It's amazing that for all the positive or interesting changes Samsung brought to the table with the Galaxy S6, it has gone right back to the traditional comfort zone with the A8. Gone is the motion-sensitive background effect seen in the S6, and gone is the ability to select multiple lock screen backgrounds. Hybrid download, a feature which allows users to download files over 30 MB using both Wi-Fi and LTE, is missing. There is no setting menu for accessories allowing for features like an S-window type cover. There is no high sensitivity mode for those who want to use the device with gloves. The lack of a notification LED is a major sore point, however. Samsung has been including this on phones even back when they were made of plastic, yet seems to arbitrarily distribute it. Why the Galaxy A8 lacks the LED, yet paradoxically has capacitive buttons that vanish from sight when not lit, seems to hint at a very haphazard design aesthetic. The front camera has also been moved from the right-hand side of the device, to the left, and vice versa for the sensors. While arguably no one will find the Galaxy A8 to be an ugly-looking phone by any means, after using it for a bit, it's more probable that the faults will become more apparent than any semblance of appreciation for the new frame, especially given how the large size makes the barren bumper all the more mundane. On a final note, given the size of the device, it is going to be immediately compared with the Galaxy Note 5 and Galaxy S6 Edge and when they launch next week. Perhaps Samsung's timing was done to get the A8 out beforehand, allowing those with more meager budgets to get in on the big screen action. The pricing problem. The idea that Samsung Korea is charging 714,000 won, about $610, for this phone is truly an impressive proposition, and one that reflects the fact it's sold on local carrier SKT. Ideally, those individuals living inside the country will purchase the A8 on contract and thus receive subsidiaries and discounts. This is not unlike what goes on here in Japan, where devices are often sold at prices far higher than in the rest of the world, but with no down payment and the potential of saving hundreds and hundreds of dollars via monthly discounts. Even when considering the price in India, Rs 32,500, $506, we are still talking about a sizable stash of cash to part with. How Samsung deemed this to be an acceptable figure is mystifying to say the least, with the upcoming OnePlus 2 and even Moto X Play offering more for less. If the whole idea to create the Galaxy A series was to better compete with top-tier offerings from Xiaomi, Huawei, OnePlus, Oppo. Based on my impressions of the A8 however, Samsung has basically sought to justify a premium price tag simply based on the presence of a thin aluminum construction and fingerprint sensor. There is very little else inside, or about, the device that actually serves to elevate it beyond what would otherwise be a much cheaper, plastic packing product. At the very least without the lag present the experience would be much, much better. Wrap up. The Galaxy A8 is somewhat of a puzzling phone, to say the least. From all the press renders and pictures that had been leaked and later officially released, the device looked like it would be a truly stunning piece of kit. The new design flourishes, for example, the way the side curves ever so slightly. Indeed, the material itself looked to be of somewhat better quality, a belief perhaps fostered by use of the Galaxy S6/S6 Edge for the past few months. Even at the lower price points the device is being sold at in Asia unfortunately doesn't compensate for the lag issues, however, as there are undoubtedly cheaper local products with similar build quality and better performance. It is highly unlikely that the Galaxy A8 will ever see release in North America, though given the release of the A3 in the UK, there is a possibility Europe might get it. While we suggest waiting for the full review, based on our initial time with the device, there are seemingly far better, cheaper products that can be purchased that offer similar, or better, specs at much more competitive prices, including Samsung's own Galaxy Alpha if you can still find it.